One early Thursday morning in October, with dawn barely making an appearance, I climbed into an Uber bound for Johannesburg Airport. At 5:30 a.m., with the city still half asleep, I felt the weight of what lay ahead as much as my pack. I was bound for the Whale Trail, a 5-day trek through the Hope Nature Reserve, where the land meets the sea and the fynbos stretches endlessly. It's a journey as much about solitude as it is about scenery, and my flight to Cape Town felt like the first step into another world. By 9:30 a.m. I touched down in Cape Town and met my fellow travelers at the car hire office, all sharing the same mix of anticipation. The 3-hour drive out of the city felt like shedding layers. First the suburbs, then orchards and farmlands, and finally the wild expanse of the Western Cape. The landscape stretched vast and unhurried, drawing us towards Potberg Ridge, where we'd spent the first night. The trail hadn't begun yet, but its presence was felt. The rangers briefed us with a mix of routine and ritual. We packed light, our gear carried for us, leaving us freer to think about the days ahead and what the trail might ask of us. The Whale Trail stretches 55 kilometers from Potberg to Kopje Alleen, marked by 5 overnight stops along its winding path. It's a route that cuts through some of the most unspoiled natural beauty you can find, taking you from the rugged inland to the striking coastline. Day 1 lies ahead of us, the hardest of days, perhaps the most honest. It asks for your commitment right from the start, throwing you into a 3-kilometer climb that tests your legs and lungs in equal measure, leading to the highest point of the trail, 611 meters up. The Hope Nature Reserve is part of the Cape Floral region, one of the world's smallest and most threatened floral kingdoms. You feel that fragility as you walk, like you're witnessing something fleeting, something that won't always be here. Meanwhile, the fynbos around us responds to the morning light. Bursts of red, pink and orange from the blooming ericas and proteas, splashes of color against the muted backdrop of rock and shrub. We stop often, not because we wind it, but because the views demand it. Swellendam sprawls out to the north, while the Indian Ocean stretches endlessly to the south. You can see the Brede River meeting the sea, Cape Infanta in one direction, Cape Agulhas in the other. As we move upward, we watch the skies, hoping for a glimpse of the Cape vulture. And then they appear, several of them, soaring above us, their wings slicing through the air with effortless precision. It's a hike that strips away time, where distance feels like a negotiation with the landscape. The descent begins, the trail winding above Grootkloof, playing tricks with the elevation as it rises and falls, following the contours of Potberg Mountain. This is the kind of trail you don't just decide to take one morning. The permits are snapped up a year in advance, and for good reason. By the time we arrive at Cupidus Kraal, it feels like we've been through every kind of terrain. Cupidus Kraal is quieter, less dramatic than the sweeping vistas we've passed, its stoop facing a modest lawn bordered by gum trees. But even in this simplicity, there's something rare. Cupida's Kraal, unassuming beauty teaches us something about this trail. Not all wonders shout from mountaintops. Some whisper softly from the quiet, unnoticed spaces in between. The second day of the whale trail starts with a bit of a climb. And it's not long before we're back on the ridge of the Potberg, walking through mountain fynbos with uninterrupted views of the Indian Ocean and the Breeder River. The strange thing is, it feels like we're heading south towards the sea, but we're actually moving slightly northeast. Having the ocean on your right side while heading away from it is disorienting. A bit of a mind trick that adds to the sense of remoteness. Once again, we're surrounded by lush, thriving fynbos. Its abundance makes you feel small in the best way possible, like you're passing through something much older and more enduring. Topping out on Potberg, the trail evens out into a flat stretch for a few kilometers. It's an easy walk, a good time to stop for tea or lunch if the weather's on your side. Then comes the descent, and it's a steep one, down into the limestone hills. Here, the landscape changes dramatically. The fynbos shifts, the terrain underfoot feels different, harder. This is ecotone territory. The meeting of two ecosystems where Table Mountain sandstone geology meets coastal limestone vegetation. You can almost feel the change as much as you can see it. As we walk through this transitional zone, we pass a thick stand of invasive Port Jackson, an unwelcome reminder that even in a place this remote, alien species are a problem. But there's some comfort in knowing that this part of the trail is being actively managed. An indigenous fungus is part of the natural plan to control and eradicate the Port Jackson. Leaving Potberg behind, the route leads onto the limestone hills. The fynbos here starkly different, almost alien compared to what we'd seen earlier. We continue on, descending to a bay that looks like it belongs in a painting. The coastline is rugged, enchanting, and there, nestled into the landscape, is Nutsey. And there it was, our first whale sighting. You could feel the buzz ripple through the group. Everyone was charged with excitement, because for all we knew, this might be our only glimpse. But as it turned out, we were wonderfully wrong about that. The hut is something special. Perched close to the sea, it was rebuilt after a storm destroyed the original one. The architects took great care in the new design, which is split into two separate wooden structures, blending into the environment rather than dominating it. Nutsey is not just a place to rest your head. It offers two excellent dry spots. One is sheltered from the wind, tucked between the award-winning huts, and the other is a seaside boma, just below the huts. There's something about cooking by the ocean. The smell of salt water in the air as you sit by the fire, that makes you feel like you've truly arrived at the end of something, but also at the beginning of something else. Day 3 of the whale trail takes you along one of the most awe-inspiring sections of the journey. A path that hugs the coastline with the marine protected area stretched out to your left. This part of the hub is more than just scenic. It's one of the most critical calving grounds for southern right whales in the world. Around 120 of these massive creatures return here every year to mate and calve, and as we walked we kept one eye on the horizon, hoping to catch sight of a tail or a breach. The ocean here isn't just for whales, it's also a vital nursery for fish species that have been overfished elsewhere, protected by the reserve's strict conservation measures. As we moved along the trail, we paused to admire the natural bonsai gardens, tiny fynbos plants clinging to life in the crevices of weather-beating limestone cliffs. It's a testament to the harsh beauty of this landscape, where life manages to thrive in the most unlikely places. Above us, the sky stretched in an endless canvas of shifting clouds, each formation rolling in from the distant ocean, adding a sense of drama to the horizon. Our first major stop was at Stilgat, a serene bay sheltered by cliffs. For those who are tempted, the clear waters offer a perfect opportunity to swim or snorkel. A cool plunge into a world just as rich beneath the surface as it is above. From Stilgat, the trail continues to wind its way along the cliffs, which drop sharply to the left. It's a dramatic walk with sweeping views and the constant sound of waves crashing far below. In August, the whale watching is at its best, though by September and October the fynbos is in full bloom. It's the perfect time for both, whales and wildflowers making their appearance on either side of the trail. There are plenty of lookout points, offering chances to pause and scan the ocean for whales, but the steep drop means sticking to the trail is essential. Every day the whales put on a show for us. We'd spot them, often a mother with her calf, gliding along the water. And now and then there'd be the trill of a breach or a slap of the tail, like punctuation marks in an unfolding story just for us. It's tempting to venture off, especially when you catch sight of the sea caves carved into the cliffs, but climbing down to explore them is highly discouraged. The last stretch is a short walk to a hammerkop hut, where we'd spend the night. It feels like we've been moving between worlds, mountain to sea, cliffs to coves, and with each step the landscape continues to unfold its quiet, hidden beauty. Day 4 of the whale trail takes us on a 10.5 kilometer trek from Hammerkop to Valkrans. A journey that tests both endurance and patience. The bulk of the day is spent trudging through soft beach sand, which, under the heat of the sun, can quickly turn from pleasant to punishing. Walking on sand is always harder than it looks, each step pulling a little more energy out of you than the last. The coastline here is defined by fragile calcrete formations, ancient rock sculpted into strange and wonderful shapes by the unrelenting hands of the waves. Along the way we passed the Lekkerwater beach lodge. This lodge provides a more exclusive and comfortable experience, attracting visitors who want to explore the same natural beauty of the area without hiking the entire trail. The trail occasionally lifts us off the beach and up onto the cliffs, offering brief relief from the sinking terrain. But for most of the day, we remained close to the shoreline, following the curves and dips of the coast as if tracing the edge of the world. The southern-right whale, with its calloused, weathered head and powerful tail, journeys thousands of kilometers to these sheltered bays, drawn by the need for calm waters to mate and raise their young. Every dive, every slow roll in the water pulls you closer to the deep rhythms of the ocean, a reminder of the incredible distances these giants travel year after year. Along South Africa's south coast, they're not just passing through, they're rejoining a place that's part of their lives, and for a moment, part of ours too. Positioned midway through this coastal stretch, the blowholes offer us a brief moment to pause and take in the elemental forces at play. These natural formations are created by the relentless power of the ocean, where crashing waves force seawater through narrow cracks in the rocky cliffs. With each surge, water and air are pushed upward, shooting out in spectacular jets, mimicking the blow of a whale surfacing for air. It's a mesmerizing sight, showcasing the dynamic interaction between land and sea, and a reminder of nature's untamed energy. Big one coming? The sea feels alive, its power both mesmerizing and humbling. As we move along, there are chances to swim, though the ocean here is not without its dangers. Riptides and strong currents make it clear that while this place is beautiful, it demands respect. You get the sense of walking through a landscape that has been both shaped and battered by time itself. There are moments of awe along this stretch. We spot whales breaching just offshore, their enormous bodies leaping out the water and crashing back with a force that sends sprays of sea foam into the air. It's a sight that never fails to impress, a reminder of the wild, untamed beauty of this place. The final stretch of the day leads us through coastal vegetation, an ever-changing display of plants that seem to thrive in the harshest conditions. It's a reminder of how resilient life can be, even here on the edge of the continent. The hut sits perched above a narrow bay, where the sea is funneled inward, crashing violently against the cliffs in a display of nature's raw power. The sprays of seawater leap up into the air, misting the cormorants, terns and swallows as they dance above their nests in the cliff face. Valkrans has a kind of rough, untamed beauty. This place feels like the edge of something, a reminder that nature is not here for us, but alongside us, in all its unpredictable, breathtaking glory. The final day of the whale trail is a brief yet satisfying hike through the coastal thickets of fynbos. As we set out, there's a palpable sense of gratitude among the group. Gratitude for the journey we've been on, for the chance to walk through a pristine corner of South Africa's eastern coastline. The Hope Nature Reserve may be remote, but it's also remarkably accessible, just 3 hours from Cape Town, a fact that makes its unspoiled beauty all the more striking. Unlike the rugged austerity of many multi-day hikes, the Whale Trail strikes a balance between wilderness and comfort. Here, luxury comes in the form of well-appointed cottages instead of rough-hewn cabins, hot showers instead of freezing water, and the kinds of creature comforts that let you immerse yourself in the landscape without losing yourself to its hardships. The final stretch offers 2 routes, one for high tide and one for low tide. But either way, it's an easygoing end to a demanding journey. We pass the aquamarine hippo pools, an inviting spot for a swim if the tide is right. The water here is impossibly clear, a shimmering blue against the rugged coastline. The southern right whales, which give the trail its name, are often spotted here, a final farewell from the giants of the sea. From there, the path winds up to Kopi Alien, the trail's end. Kopi Alien's towering dunes offer panoramic views of the ocean, and it's one of the best places along the trail for whale watching. A celebratory brunch awaits us at Bites restaurant, a fitting conclusion to 5 days of hiking through one of South Africa's most diverse landscapes. By noon, the shuttle arrives to take us back to Potberg, where our vehicles wait to return us to the world we'd left behind. It's the end of the trail, but like any good journey, it feels more like a beginning, the kind of experience that stays with you, quietly reshaping how you see the world, long after you've left the path behind.
Well, my heart knows me better than I know myself, so I'm gonna let it do all the talking. Came across a place in the middle of nowhere with a big black horse and a cherry tree.